his accession year or his 18th regnal year, a breach was made in Jerusalem's wall. Zedekiah and his men fled but were overtaken in the desert plains of Jericho. Since Nebuchadnezzar had retired to Riblah in the land of Hamath, Zedekiah was brought before him there. Nebuchadnezzar had all of Zedekiah's sons slaughtered, and then he blinded and bound Zedekiah in order to take him as a prisoner to Babylon. The post-conquest details, including the burning of the temple and the houses of Jerusalem, the disposition of temple utensils, and the taking of captives, were handled by Nebuzaradan, the chief of the bodyguard. Over those not taken captive, Gedaliah, an appointee of Nebuchadnezzar, served as governor. 2 Chi 25. 1-22. 2 Ch 36. 17-20. J 52. 1-27, 29. His dream of an immense image. The book of Daniel states that it was in the second year of Nebuchadnezzar's kingship, probably counting from the destruction of Jerusalem in 607 BCE, and therefore actually referring to his 20th regnal year, that Nebuchadnezzar had the dream about the golden-headed image. Da 2. 1. Although the magic-practicing priests, conjurers, and Chaldeans were unable to interpret this dream, the Jewish prophet Daniel did so. This moved Nebuchadnezzar to acknowledge Daniel's God as a God of gods and a Lord of kings and a revealer of secrets. He then constituted Daniel ruler over all the jurisdictional district of Babylon and the chief prefect over all the wise men of Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar also appointed Daniel's 3 companions, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, to administrative posts. Da 2. Later exiles of Jews. About 3 years later, in the 23rd year of Nebuchadnezzar's reign, more Jews were taken into exile. J 52. 30. This exile probably involved Jews who had fled to lands that were later conquered by the Babylonians. Lending support to this conclusion is the statement of the historian Josephus. In the 5th year after the sacking of Jerusalem, which was the 23rd year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuchadnezzar marched against Kosar and, after occupying it, made war both on the Moabites and the Ammonites. Then, after making these nations subject to him, he invaded Egypt in order to subdue it, and, having killed the king who was then reigning and appointed another, he again took captive the Jews who were in the country and carried them to Babylon. Jewish Antiquities, X, 181, 182-9, 7. Takes Tyre. It was also some time after the fall of Jerusalem in 607 BCE that Nebuchadnezzar began the siege against Tyre. During this siege the heads of his soldiers were made bald from the chafing of the helmets, and their shoulders were rubbed bare from carrying materials used in the construction of siege works. As Nebuchadnezzar received no wages for serving as Jehovah's instrument in executing judgment upon Tyre, he promised to give him the wealth of Egypt. Es 26. 7-11. 29. 17-20. See Tyre. 1 fragmentary Babylonian O text to acute Miritra longo and Boshazban 482 mot, I reached the level of the water. I then saw that the wall which my father had prepared was too small in its construction. I built with bitumen and brick a mighty wall which, like a mountain, could not be moved, and connected it with the wall of my father. I laid its foundations on the breast of the underworld. Its top I raised up like a mountain. Along this wall to strengthen it I constructed a third, and as the base of a protecting wall I laid a foundation of bricks and built it on the breast of the underworld and laid its foundation. The fortifications of Esagila and Babylon I strengthened and established the name of my reign forever. Archaeology and the Bible, by G. Barton, 1949, pages 478, 479. The foregoing harmonizes with Nebuchadnezzar's boast made just before he lost his sanity. Is not this Babylon the Great, that I myself have built for the royal house with the strength of my might and for the dignity of my majesty? Da 4. 30. But when, in fulfillment of his divinely sent dream about the chopped-down tree, his reasoning powers were restored, Nebuchadnezzar had to acknowledge that Jehovah is able to humiliate those walking in pride. Da 4. 37. See madness. Very religious. The indications are that Nebuchadnezzar was extremely religious, building and beautifying the temples of numerous Babylonian deities. Particularly was he devoted to the worship of Marduk, the chief god of Babylon. To him Nebuchadnezzar gave credit for his military victories. Trophies of war, including the sacred vessels of Jehovah's temple, appear to have been deposited in the temple of Marduk Merodach. As 1. 7. 5. 14 says an inscription of Nebuchadnezzar. For thy glory, O exalted Merodach, a house have I made. May it receive within itself the abundant tribute of the kings of nations and of all peoples. Records of the past. Assyrian and Egyptian Monuments, London, 1875, Volume V, p. 135. The image of gold set up by Nebuchadnezzar in the plain of Dura was perhaps dedicated to Marduk and designed to promote religious unity in the empire. Enraged over the refusal of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to worship this image even after being given a second opportunity, Nebuchadnezzar commanded that they be thrown into a fiery furnace heated 7 times hotter than usual. However, when these 3 Hebrews were delivered by Jehovah's angel, Nebuchadnezzar was forced to say that there does not exist another God that is able to deliver like this one. 3. Nebuchadnezzar also appears to have relied heavily on divination in planning his military moves. Ezekiel's prophecy, for example, depicts the king of Babylon as employing divination in deciding whether to go against Rabbah of Ammon or against Jerusalem. Ez 21. 18-23. Nebuchadnezzar Shazban from Akkadion, meaning O Nebo, deliver me. The Rabsaris, chief court official, in the forces of Nebuchadnezzar that destroyed Jerusalem in 607 BCE. Nebuchadnezzar was one of several princes that directed the release of Jeremiah. 39. 13, 14. Either Nebuchadnezzar is referred to by his title, or else another man was also called Rabsaris in the group that sat down in the middle gate after the Babylonians first broke through Jerusalem's wall. 39. 2, 3. Nebuzaradan from Babylonian, meaning Nebo has given offspring. Chief of the bodyguard and principal figure in Nebuchadnezzar's forces led the actual destruction of Jerusalem in 607 BCE. It does not appear that Nebuzaradan was present during the initial siege and breakthrough of Jerusalem, for it was about a month later that he came to Jerusalem, after King Zedekiah had been brought to Nebuchadnezzar and blinded. 2 Kai 25. 2-8. 39. 2, 3. 52. 6-11. From outside the city, Nebuzaradan directed the Babylonian operations of destroying the city, which began on the 7th day of the month, the 5th month, Ab, and which included looting the Otextoi acute Muritra Longo, Needles I 483, 159. IV, 42, Necho was the son of Samatichos. Samtichai succeeded his father as ruler of Egypt. Although beginning construction work on a canal linking the Nile with the Red Sea, he did not complete this project. However, he did send a Phoenician fleet on a voyage around Africa. This journey was successfully completed in 3 years. Toward the close of Josiah's 31-year reign 659-629 BCE, Pharaoh Necho was on his way to help the Assyrians at the river Euphrates. At that time Josiah disregarded the words of Necho from the mouth of God and was mortally wounded while attempting to turn the Egyptian forces back at Megiddo. About 3 months later, Pharaoh Necho took Jehoahaz, Josiah's successor to the throne, captive and made 25-year-old Eliakim his vassal, changing the new ruler's name to Jehoiakim. Necho also imposed a heavy fine on the kingdom of Judah. 2 Ch 35. 20. 36. 4. 2 Chi 23. 29-35 at Karchemish. Between 3 and 4 years later, 625 BCE, Necho's forces suffered defeat at the hands of the Babylonians under the command of Nebuchadnezzar. 46. 2. Neck. The part of a human or an animal that connects the head with the rest of the body. The Hebrew terms for neck evidently emphasize its skeletal structure that can be broken. X 13. 13. Once a 4. 18 or the back part of the neck. G 49. 8. Jos 10. 24. In the Bible the term neck is frequently used in a figurative way. In Hebrew, one fleeing in defeat was literally said to turn his neck to the enemy. Compare Jos 7. 8, that is, the back of his neck. Therefore, to have one's hand on the back of the neck of his enemies was to conquer, or subdue, them. Ge 49. 8. Tusa 22. 41. PS 18. 40 with similar significance, on monuments of Egypt and Assyria, monarchs are represented in battle scenes as treading on the necks of their enemies. Likewise, Joshua ordered his army commanders, "Come forward. Place your feet on the back of the necks of these kings." Jos 10. 24. A yoke upon the neck indicated servitude, submission, or bondage. Ge 27. 40. Ge 30. 8. Ac 15. 10. The frequent expressions stiff-necked and hardened neck represent a rebellious and obstinate spirit. As a warning to us, the scriptures say that a man repeatedly reproved but making his neck hard will suddenly be broken, and that without healing. PR 29. 1. Da 9. 6, 13. 31. 27. 2 Chi 17. 14. PS 75. 5. Isra 48. 4. Throat. The Hebrew word for throat evidently refers to the front part of the neck where the organs for speaking and swallowing are found. PS 149. 6. Ge 2. 25. The importance of the discipline and authority of one's parents and, by implication, the eminent value of God's commandments and laws is emphasized by the admonition to bind them upon the throat, where beautiful and precious ornaments were worn. PR 1. 8, 9. 3. 1-3. 6. 20, 21. Walking with one's throat stretched forth can evidence haughtiness. Isra 3. 16. Of wicked men of lies and bloodshed, the Bible says, "In their mouth there is nothing trustworthy. Their throat is an open burial place." PS 5. 9. Row 3. 13. Necklace. An ornamental chain or string of beads, gold, silver, coral, jewels, and the like, worn around the neck. Necklaces were anciently worn by women. 1. 10. 4. 9. Compare is 16. 11. And even by men, especially those of high station. Ge 41. 41, 42. Da 5. 7, 16, 17, 29. The Midianites of Gideon's day put necklaces on the necks of their camels, and from these necklaces, apparently, moon-shaped ornaments hung as pendants. JG 8. 21, 26. Necklace-style chains were at times used for ornamentation, as for the temple pillars Jachin and Boaz. 2ch 3. 15-17. Of boastful, wicked people it is said that haughtiness has served as a necklace to them. PS 73. 3, 6. On the other hand, the discipline of a father and the law of a mother are as a fine necklace to a son's throat. PR 1. 8, 9. Nadabu and Ed middle dot a middle dot by Arja is willing noble. O textoi acute miritra longo, negeb 484 needles I to be a small gate through which a camel, if relieved of its load, could pass with difficulty. However, the Greek word for needle found at Matthew 19. 24 and Mark 10. 25 middle dot fis is drawn from a verb meaning so. Also, the Greek word appearing in the parallel passage of Luke 18. 25 b middle dot loani is used to refer to a literal surgical needle. Regarding these Greek terms, Vine's Expository Dictionary of Old and New Testament Words notes, the idea of applying the needle's eye to small gates seems to be a modern one. There is no ancient trace of it. The Lord's object in the statement is to express human impossibility, and there is no need to endeavor to soften the difficulty by taking the needle to mean anything more than the ordinary instrument. 1981, Volume 3, p. 106. As a hyperbole, the illustration emphasized how difficult it would be for rich men not simply to begin serving God but actually to enter into the kingdom. 1t6. 17-19. Luke 13. 24. Negeb south. The Hebrew word Negev is thought to be derived from a root meaning be parched and often denotes the semi-arid areas of the mountains of Judah. Negev also came to mean south and is used with reference to a southern side New 35. 5. A southern boundary Jos 15. 4. And a southern gate as 46. 9. In some translations a distinction between the geographic designation and the compass direction is not maintained, resulting in confusing renderings. An example of this is Genesis 13. 1, where translating Negev as south as KJ, makes it appear that Abraham went southward out of Egypt, when actually his direction was northward through the Negeb to Bethel. But this difficulty has been eliminated in many modern translations. At JB, NW, RS. Topography. The Negeb of ancient times seems to have embraced an area extending from the district of Beersheba in the end to Kadesh Barnea in the SGE 21. 14. New 13. 17, 22. 32. 8. The prophet Isaiah described this region as a land of hard conditions, a haunt of lions, leopards, and snakes. Is 30. 6. In the northern section, occasional springs, wells, and pools are found, and the tamarisk is one of the few trees that thrives there. GE 21. 33. To the south of Beersheba lie two small areas and one relatively large area of sand dunes. Much of the Negeb is a plateau between 450 and 600 meters, 1,500 and 2,000 feet above sea level, with peaks up to 1,050 meters, 3,440 feet in elevation. To the S&D of Beersheba there are rugged ridges, generally running from E to W. History. The cisterns, terrace walls, and ruins of many towns that have been found in the Negeb indicate that the area anciently supported a considerable population. Here the patriarchs Abraham and Isaac found pasturage for their large flocks. GE 13. 1, 2. 20. 1. 24. 62. And in Abraham's time the Elamite king Chedorlaomer, with his 3 allies, defeated the inhabitants of the Negeb. GE 14. 1-7. Centuries afterward, the Israelite spies sent by Moses entered the promised land from the Negeb, which at that time was inhabited by the Amalekites. New 13. 17, 22, 29. Under the leadership of Joshua, all the inhabitants of the Negeb were defeated. Jos 10. 40. 11. 16. And cities in this region became part of the territory of the tribe of Simeon. Jos 19. 1-6. Also, the nomadic Kenites, who were related to Moses through marriage, took up the Negeb. The south of Judah, though generally a harsh terrain, at one time supported a sizable population. Nehemiah 485 residents in the Negeb. JG 1. 16. Compare 1-15. 6, 7. The Israelites evidently did not maintain control over the area. Over the years there were repeated clashes with the Canaanites of the Negeb, and particularly with the Amalekites. JG 1. 9. 6. 3. 1-15. 1-9. 30. 1-20. From the city of Ziklag, given to him by the Philistine king Achish, David made raids upon the Jeshurites, the Girzites, and the Amalekites of the Negeb. 1-27. 5-8. Apparently not until David's reign as king, after the defeat of the Edomites, did Israel gain complete control of the Negeb. 2-8. 13, 14. The later Judean king Uzziah evidently built towers and hewed out cisterns in this region. 2ch 26. 10. After the destruction of Jerusalem by the Babylonians, Obadiah foretold that the Israelites would be restored to their land, including the Negeb. Ob 19, 20. Neglect. This word has the meaning of paying no attention to, disregarding, being remiss in care for or treatment of someone or something, failure to carry out or perform orders, duties, and so forth. The word can carry the connotation of willfulness or deliberateness in such failure, or merely of oversight through indifference or carelessness. One of several Hebrew terms having the meaning neglect is the verb parmiddle.ra, which literally means loosen. New 5. 18. It has the sense go ungroomed with regard to physical appearance. 10. 6. Go unrestrained with regard to conduct. 32. 25. And neglect or shun discipline. PR 13. 18. 15. 32. Compare X5. 4. Where it is rendered leave off. Another is the word amidl.zave, which literally means abandon. Leave. De 29. 25. 1 Kai 12. 8. Thus, Nehemiah encouraged true worshippers not to neglect the house of the true God. NE 10. 39. Compare 13. 11. Another Hebrew term to designate neglect literally means slackness, like that of a loose bough. J 48. 10. Compare PS 78. 57. The Greek word lo from me, not, and me-lo, care for contains more definitely the idea of unconcern, not caring, and not so much the thought of unintentional oversight or the overlooking of something. After describing the severe punishment for disobedience to the Mosaic law, the Apostle Paul says, "How shall we escape if we have neglected Gr. a tes, having been unconcerned of a salvation of such greatness in that it began to be spoken through our Lord." While God joined in bearing witness. Here he indicates that it is not the matter of an oversight, but the lack of concern, a drifting away. Verses 1, disobedience to the word of God spoken through his only begotten Son. Heb 2. 1-4, int. Matthew used a form of this Greek word in relating Jesus' illustration of the marriage feast. Those invited by the king to his son's wedding feast did not come. Why? Not through oversight, but, unconcerned they went off, one to his own field, another to his commercial business. For this lack of concern they were counted unworthy. Mount 22. 5, 8. The young man Timothy was given a heavy responsibility as an overseer in Ephesus. Paul admonished him. Do not be neglecting or being careless of the gift in you that was given you through a prediction, and when the body of older men laid their hands upon you. It took much energetic action on Timothy's part to avoid being neglectful. He had to be absorbed in his reading, proper teaching, conduct, exhortation, and example, showing concern by constant, undeviating attention. Otherwise he could lose out by negligence, by lack of real concern for God's favor bestowed upon him. 1-4. 11-16, int. Paul quotes Jehovah's words concerning Israel, wherein he spoke of the law covenant, saying, "Which covenant of mine they themselves broke, although I myself had husbandly ownership of them." J 31. 32. In place of "although I myself had husbandly ownership of them," the Septuagint reads, "and I stopped caring for them." This doubtless explains why the quotation, at Hebrews o textoi acute miritra longo, Nehemiah 486-2. Son of Azbuk and prince over half the district of Bethzur. Since the town of Bethzur was located in the Mount Venus region of Judah. Jos 15. 21, 48, 58, Nehemiah may have been a Judean. In 455 BCE he shared in repairing the wall of Jerusalem. Ne 3. 16. 3. Son of Hakliah and brother of Hanani. Cupbearer to Persian king Artaxerxes Longimanus and, later, governor of the Jews, rebuilder of Jerusalem's wall, and writer of the Bible book bearing his name. Ne 1. 1, 2, 11.